They fined me $450 for parking my own pickup in my driveway, said it violated Visual Uniformity Standards, Section 4.2. 7 days later, the same board member parked her Range Rover on the street overnight. I took a time-stamped photo before sunrise, emailed it to myself, and started the clock. Welcome to HOA Society. I'm Adam Blake from Greenville, North Carolina, a structural engineer who thought a cul-de-sac was the safest place to raise 2 kids after losing their mom 3 winters ago. If you've ever been burned by a board that thinks it owns your property, stick around and tell me, where are you watching from tonight? My wife Allison used to say rules were fine until they became weapons. When she passed from a stroke at 39, I promised our boys stability. The HOA pitch sounded noble: maintenance, safety, curb appeal. I even joined the first annual meeting in good faith, sipping burnt coffee and nodding along. But after Allison's old truck became our weekend fixer project, the board decided to make it a symbol of defiance. It began with a yellow citation folded under the wiper, like a threat in origami. Improper vehicle storage, $150 day after notice. Then came the email from the president, Gloria Parks, reminding me that uniform appearance preserves value for everyone. I wrote back, "Uniformity isn't ownership." She replied, "That's not how our bylaws read, Mr. Blake." I checked the bylaws that night. Section 7.4 referenced driveway use, but the clause was conditional, unless the vehicle is under current repair by the owner. It was. I printed that page, highlighted it, and taped it above my desk beside a photo of Allison in her grease-stained coveralls. She'd rebuilt that engine once. I wasn't going to let it go without a fight. A week later, 2 officers knocked while I was changing the oil. One asked if there was a disturbance. I wiped my hands and said, "Only gravity." They smirked, said a resident had called reporting hazardous fluid runoff. When I pointed at the containment tray, the younger one shrugged. "We're required to check. HOA complaint." As they left, I saw Gloria watching from her porch, phone still in hand. That night I walked the neighborhood, noting every infraction the board ignored. Mailboxes chipped, fences warped, one house with Christmas lights still up in March. I took photos, tagged addresses, and built a log. Every click of my phone camera felt like reclaiming oxygen. Next morning, I emailed a polite question to the property management company. Please provide the current insurance certificate and fidelity bond as required under NCGS IO 47F 3112. No answer. I sent a certified letter instead. That letter would matter later. Grief can make you quiet, but injustice sharpens focus. I wasn't after revenge. I wanted fairness, because kids learn from how you fight, not just if you win. By the 3rd week, the board doubled the fine to $900 and threatened a lien. They didn't realize liens in North Carolina require both notice and a recorded vote, neither of which they had. I read that statute like a bedtime story, every line more satisfying than the last. When I showed the letter to my friend Marcus, a city code inspector who lived 2 blocks over, he laughed through his thermos of coffee. "They're bluffing, man. Most HOAs don't even file proper corporate renewals." He promised to help me dig quietly, off the record. Marcus was steady, slow in speech, careful with paperwork, always using black ink because blue fades under fluorescent light. At the next board meeting, I asked calmly, "Can you provide the meeting minutes authorizing that lien?" Gloria gave that smug tilt of the head. "We're not required to share executive session materials." "Actually," I said, unfolding my copy, "of the law, financial enforcement decisions must be recorded in open minutes. Executive sessions are for personnel or legal consultations only." I scanned everything, numbered each file, and titled the folder Silent Key. Knowledge nugget number 2. Easements survive developer turnover unless formally conveyed. Without that, HOA authority stops at the boundary line. The next Monday, the board emailed a mass notice. Unauthorized backyard sheds must be removed within 10 days. Mine was the photo on the example sheet. I knew the rule didn't apply beyond that easement line, but I stayed quiet. You never interrupt an opponent while they're making your case for you. That night I filmed another short segment for viewers. Fines? $250, $500, even $1,000. Are they about justice or just revenue? What's your limit before you'd fight back? Comment below, or at least like the video so it reaches someone who needs it. Andrea helped me draft a letter to the county, formally requesting confirmation of easement ownership. She smiled when she sealed the envelope. Once that comes back, you'll own the stage. The harassment escalated. A courtesy wellness check showed up at my door at 10 p.m., supposedly for signs of distress. The officer looked embarrassed. "We got a call from your HOA president." I thanked him, handed over a printed log of every incident, and he muttered, "Keep records, you're doing it right." The next morning, the HOA newsletter featured an article about property values declining due to non-compliant homeowners. My address wasn't listed, but everyone knew. I could feel eyes through curtains when I walked the dog. Still, there were bright spots. Mrs. Green, who'd lived there 30 years, slipped a note under my mat. "Don't let them bully you." They did this to my late husband over a ramp for his wheelchair. The handwriting trembled, but the message steadied me. I started to think of it less as a battle and more as a restoration project. Fix the rot, beam by beam. The county response arrived in early June. Official letterhead, blue seal, crisp language. Easement parcel 22B remains titled to Wilcox Development, LLC. No transfer recorded. The developer had gone bankrupt in 2001. I traced the dissolution filings and found the company's remaining assets were sold to a private trust for $1. That trust still existed. I followed the trail through 2 custodial changes and a quiet merger into a property holding entity. A week later, I registered a single-member LLC and purchased that dormant trust for $47 in administrative fees. The ownership of easement 22B transferred to me. The sound of the notary's stamp, the click and sigh of it, felt like thunder under glass. I didn't tell anyone right away, not even Marcus. The power of a secret is in its silence. Every HOA fence, every drainage line, even the sprinkler junctions now crossed land owned by me, not them. They still thought they ruled the block. Gloria strutted through the next meeting with that same clipped confidence. "We're initiating enforcement for backyard encroachments," she said, tapping the gavel. "Non-compliance will lead to removal at the owner's expense." I leaned forward. "Just curious, Madam President, do you have the recorded survey showing where the HOA's boundary ends?" Her tone sharpened. "We're confident in our plat maps." "Confidence isn't evidence," I said quietly, sliding my phone across the table. On the screen, the county-stamped easement map with my LLC's name in the owner field. I didn't press play on the next file, though, a video of me measuring the fence line with Marcus and reading the coordinates aloud. That was for later. After the meeting, Marcus shook his head. "Man, you're holding a loaded briefcase. Just don't open it yet." He was right. The goal wasn't humiliation. It was accountability. I let them keep piling violations, knowing each would collapse the moment I filed a C-keys. Claim of trespass against them. She blinked. One of the newer board members whispered something, and they tabled the vote. Small win. I could feel Allison in the back of my mind saying, "Document everything." That night, I opened a new folder labeled Parks View People. Inside went every citation, letter, and photo. I also kept an analog binder, green tabs for evidence, red for retaliation. I even logged the temperature and time of each incident. Patterns form faster than people admit. They didn't take kindly to being challenged. 2 days later, I got a notice about grass height variance of 3.5 inches, and another citing non-compliant porch decor, the small wind chime Allison loved. That was the moment my anger stopped being personal and turned procedural. Knowledge nugget number 1. Selective enforcement, when an HOA punishes one homeowner for a rule it ignores for others, can void the entire regulation under equal application principles. Second engagement moment. I looked straight into the lens during the next update I filmed. Are you firmly anti-HOA, or do you think they keep order? If you've ever fought one, drop one tactic that worked for you. And if you're on a board watching this, leave your defense in the comments. Marcus and I spent evenings tracing filings. We found that the HOA's corporate status had lapsed 6 months ago for failure to submit its biennial report. Legally, they weren't a functioning association. The fines they'd issued, potentially void. But I needed proof the public would trust, not just a technicality. That's when I called Andrea Lopez, a local real estate attorney known for her relentless calm. She wore ink-stained cuffs from signing too many filings, kept a flask of mint tea on her desk, and spoke like she'd already read the ending of every argument. She said, "Adam, if their corporate charter lapsed, they can't collect assessments. Period. But don't tell them yet. Let the powers empile their mistakes. The more they move while dissolved, the bigger the rollback later." So I waited. When Gloria's board mailed another threat, this one certified, I smiled. Each misstep was now evidence. Debate starter for you all. How far should an HOA control your driveway, porch, or lawn before it stops being community and starts being control? Where's that line? The next step was setting bait. Marcus suggested requesting an architectural review for a paint update. We submitted identical samples to 3 neighbors. Only mine was denied. The reason? Tone too industrial. Industrial. That was their word for, "You stood up to us." I kept my head down and mowed my grass exactly to 3.25 inches just to watch them squirm. Then I waited for the next move, because every overreach tightens the coil. By May, the pattern was obvious. 6 citations in 45 days, each signed by Gloria herself. I started printing them on heavier stock, just so the paper stack on my desk would sound satisfying when I dropped it. Thunk. Evidence has weight. Marcus ran a quick property search one night after dinner. "You ever notice this?" he said, spinning his laptop toward me. The HOA's parcel map showed a narrow 10-foot utility easement running behind our back fences, still titled to the original developer. That sliver of land meant every drainage line, cable conduit, and fence post technically crossed non-HOA property. The board had no jurisdiction back there. That discovery cracked something open. I spent the next weekend in the county recorder's office, the smell of toner and paper dust heavy in the air. An old clerk named Louise pointed out that the easement deed from 1996 had never been reassigned. "Developers forget," she said, licking her thumb to flip pages, "but whoever holds this can enter for maintenance or deny access." Debate prompt for all of you following. How far should an HOA's reach go before it becomes harassment instead of maintenance? Is the line drawn at your fence or your freedom? Mid-June brought heat and hypocrisy. The board mailed a community aesthetics memo banning solar panels visible from the street. I noticed Gloria's own house had 2 on the south roof. I took a time-stamped photo at 2:47 p.m., sunlight glinting off the glass like an admission. Andrea smiled when I showed her. "You're collecting a symphony of contradictions," she said. "But remember, the finale matters most." The next bait came with my lawn. I trimmed a single hedge lower than regulation height, just enough to be noticed. Sure enough, the violation letter arrived within 48 hours, signature line empty. That was illegal under their own bylaws. I kept it. Knowledge nugget number 3. Unsigned violation notices lack legal enforceability in most states. Due process requires an identified officer or agent. Gloria must have sensed something slipping. She called me one Saturday morning, tone sugar over steel. "Adam, we'd prefer to settle this neighbor to neighbor. Maybe remove the truck and call it even." "Can't," I said, watching condensation slide down my coffee mug. "That truck's part of my late wife's estate. Removing it would be like erasing her." She hesitated, then dropped pretense. "You're making this difficult for everyone." "Everyone, or just you?" Click. By July, I had a full dossier, emails, letters, violation sheets, even screenshots of Facebook posts mocking me in their private HOA group. Andrea said, "Give them rope. We'll measure it later." That rope came in the form of a scheduled inspection. The HOA planned to enter the easement area to verify drainage compliance. Gloria even printed door hangers announcing access between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. I circled the date, July 14th. That will be the day the curtain dropped. That night, I looked at the photo of Allison on the workbench. Her smile still had engine grease on it. "We're close, Al," I whispered. "One more inspection, and they'll inspect the wrong property." July 14th arrived humid, the kind of morning where the air feels thick enough to weigh your decisions. I had coffee ready, camera battery charged, binder open on the counter. When the first HOA pickup rolled up at 8:06 a.m., Marcus was already leaning on my fence line in his city inspector vest. Perfectly legitimate reason to be there. 3 board members stepped out, clipboards in hand, Gloria leading. "We're here for the drainage inspection," she said briskly. I nodded. "Sure, you're about to make history." They marched through my gate and into the easement strip. That was the moment I hit record on both my phone and the small GoPro hidden near the shed. Gloria pointed toward a PVC line. "This piping violates setback requirements." Marcus coughed softly. "Ma'am, that pipe's on private property. Different parcel entirely." She turned. "This is HOA-maintained common area." He unfolded the map with the blue seal. "Not since 1996. Easement 22B, owned by Wilcox Development, now held by Blake Easement Trust, recorded July 6th. Her face drained color. "That's what?" I stepped forward, holding the deed copy. "You're standing on my property, Mrs. Parks, which means your inspection constitutes trespass. You'll need to leave." Visual beat number 1. The image of her clipboard slipping, landing in the wet grass beside the survey stake. "Is this some kind of stunt?" she snapped. "No," I said evenly. "It's called a chain of title." We walked them off the property while Marcus narrated for the record. Later that afternoon, I filed a notarized notice of revoked access and mailed a copy to their property management company. Officer Daniels stepped forward from the back of the room. His presence silenced the low hum. "I reviewed the filings," he said. "He's right, trespass occurred. We're treating this as a civil matter for now, but I'd advise the board to cease enforcement actions pending legal review." Visual beat number 2. The rain-beaded microphone on the folding table catching the overhead light as he spoke, a single drop sliding down the cord. The room erupted, neighbors whispering, some clapping softly. Gloria tried to gavel for order, but the sound came out hollow. Debate moment for those of you watching later. When an HOA breaks its own rules, should the officers face personal fines or just removal? What would real accountability look like where you live? I took a breath, feeling years of tightness start to release. "I'm not here to destroy this community," I said into the mic. "I'm here to restore it, but we need transparency, open budgets, fair elections, and no more secret fines." Andrea placed one final document in front of Gloria. "This is a proposed settlement," she said calmly. "Reinstate corporate good standing, refund all unlawful fines, and adopt a public records policy. In return, Mr. Blake agrees not to pursue civil damages for trespass or defamation." The board members huddled, whispering furiously. The treasurer, a mild man named Carter, finally spoke. "Maybe it's time we listen." That was the first crack. You could feel the shift, the relief of people realizing they weren't the villains if they changed sides. After the meeting, Daniels clapped me on the shoulder. "You handled that cleaner than most lawyers," he said. I smiled. I just read the manual they never expected me to find. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, humid air thick with ozone. I watched Gloria step into her SUV, slam the door, and sit there a long time before driving off. Andrea looked at me. "You've got them. Now use it wisely." I nodded, eyes on the storm clouds gathering. The real work, turning leverage into reform, was next. The storm broke that night. By morning, word spread across every porch and group chat. The board got caught trespassing. Half the neighborhood wanted to talk. The other half wanted distance. The HOA's Facebook page shut down by noon. Andrea called first. "The insurer's legal department wants to meet. They realize they've been underwriting a dissolved entity. That means the directors may be personally liable for any fines they imposed." "Perfect," I said. "Let's make sure they know reform is cheaper than court." Marcus dropped by later, still in his city vest, whistling. "You're trending on Nextdoor," he grinned. "Someone called you the HOA Avenger." I laughed, though it felt surreal. "I just wanted to park my truck." He nodded. "Sometimes that's how reform starts, one bad rule at a time." The meeting with the insurer was set for August 10th at the County Library Conference Room, neutral ground. Andrea handled the introductions, all formality and calm. I presented my documentation, flipping each exhibit like chapters of their downfall. Fines, trespass, defamation screenshots, unfiled corporate renewals. When I finished, the insurer's representative, a woman named Dana, closed her folder. "Mr. Blake, this is comprehensive. If even half these facts are accurate, our exposure is significant. We'll recommend immediate policy suspension pending governance reforms." That line hit like a quiet verdict. Gloria's jaw tightened. "You can't freeze our funds." Dana replied evenly. "We can. and under Section 6 of the Indemnity Clause, we must. Debate prompt for the viewers. When power shifts, should those who abused it get a second chance to lead under supervision or be barred permanently? What builds trust faster in your community? Debate prompt for you folks. When an HOA crosses into your yard or cameras your home, is it safety or surveillance? Where's the legal boundary we should all draw? 2 days later, the retaliation came fast. I got 5 new citations: mailbox alignment, window tint, unauthorized shed color, and my favorite, disruptive attitude. They even attempted another wellness check. That night I sat with Andrea and Marcus at my dining table. The air smelled of printer toner and cold pizza. Andrea slid a new file across to me. "You're ready for reversal number 1. You've got lawful leverage. Next move is timing." Marcus nodded. "They'll either double down or crumble. Either way, you're recording the end." We planned the set piece for the upcoming quarterly HOA meeting on August 3rd, open to residents and recorded per the bylaws. Andrea would attend as my advisor. The neutral authority? Officer Daniels, the same patrolman who'd handled the first wellness call, now briefed on the trespass documentation. The days leading up felt like balancing on a wire. My boys noticed I was quieter. One night my youngest asked, "Dad, are we going to lose the house?" I set down the wrench, crouched to his level. "No, bud, we're fixing it. Like Mom used to fix the engine, bit by bit." Harassment continued right up until meeting week. A neighbor's dog gate suddenly violated view rules. Anonymous posts calling me a litigation junkie. One morning my trash bin mysteriously knocked over 3 houses down. Every act documented, time-stamped, printed, logged. By the morning of the meeting, my binder had 42 separate exhibits. I slipped it into a black case, the latch clicking like a punctuation mark on every injustice they'd thrown. The community room buzzed when I arrived. Folding chairs, styrofoam cups, the smell of powdered creamer and tension. Gloria sat at the front, gavel in hand. Papers stacked like a fortress. Andrea whispered, "Remember, lawful, calm, factual. Let the evidence speak." I nodded once, feeling the weight of Allison's photo tucked inside the binder's cover. Then Gloria banged the gavel. Meeting called to order. Item 1. Disciplinary proceedings regarding Mr. Blake. Gloria's voice carried that brittle confidence of someone still sure the room belonged to her. "Mr. Blake has repeatedly defied community standards," she declared. "He's accrued $3,200 in unpaid fines. We move to authorize a lien." I waited until the murmurs settled, then stood slowly, the chair legs scraping the floor. "Madam President," I said, "before you vote on that, I have some documents you'll need to see." Andrea passed me the binder. The click of the latch echoed like a starter pistol. I placed the first exhibit on the table, a certified copy of the HOA's lapsed corporate registration. Gasps from the second row. "Without active status, your board lacked authority to levy fines or record liens as of February 9th, I said. "Every dollar demanded since then is void," Gloria stammered. "That's an administrative oversight. It doesn't change," I interrupted gently. "Actually, it changes everything, including your insurance coverage. The carrier you listed on the March newsletter canceled the policy in April. I confirmed it by email." Andrea slid the printed correspondence across the table. Her neat pen had underlined the insurer's phrase. "Policy void due to non-renewal of corporate status." Gloria's face twitched. "You can't just—" "I can, and I did." I lifted the next page, the deed to easement parcel 22B. "As of July 6th, this land is privately owned by my LLC. Any board member entering it without consent commits trespass. As you can see, your July 14th inspection occurred after that date." 3 days later, resignations rolled in. First the treasurer, then the secretary. Gloria tried to hold on, insisting continuity was essential. But the momentum was gone. The neighborhood had seen too much. By August 18th, a special meeting was scheduled. Officer Daniels attended again as neutral witness. The remaining members voted 4-1 to dissolve the current board effective immediately, pending reconstitution under new bylaws. I didn't gloat. Instead, I offered a path forward. "Let's fix this together," I said. "We'll keep the name, but change the rules." Knowledge nugget number 4. Under most state statutes, homeowners can petition for special elections when a majority of directors resign or are removed. Majority rule reclaims authority from mismanagement. Andrea outlined the reforms. Term limits of 2 years, staggered elections, mandatory annual audits with results posted online, 5% fee rollback for the next fiscal year, public comment periods in every board meeting, conflict of interest disclosures for anyone holding multiple roles. Visual beat number 3, a stamped deed hitting the podium as Andrea read the new charter title aloud, the Greenville Oaks Community Restoration Act, 2025. That moment wasn't about revenge, it was about return. I looked around and saw neighbors smiling, some even tearing up. Mrs. Green raised her hand. "About time," she said. "Feels like we got our street back." Afterward, outside under the flickering parking lot lights, Gloria approached me. The arrogance was gone. What remained looked almost human. "You could have ruined me," she said quietly. I shook my head. "No, I just held up a mirror." She nodded once and walked away, heels echoing against the wet pavement. The community voted to appoint an interim board, with Marcus as facilities chair and Mrs. Green as ethics liaison. I stayed out of leadership. I'd done my part. But that night, and when I pulled into my driveway and saw Allison's old truck gleaming in the porch light, legal and free, I finally exhaled. The truck hadn't moved in months, but somehow it still felt like progress. September came with the first hint of cooler air, the kind that carries the smell of wet leaves and distant barbecues. The street felt different now, lighter, quieter, almost polite. Kids played basketball where the no noise after 7 p.m. signs used to glare. A new bulletin board stood near the mailboxes, freshly painted, the words "Community Updates" hand-lettered across the top. The reforms were real. Andrea filed the paperwork for reinstatement and reform certification. The state acknowledged the HOA under a new charter, complete with public transparency clauses. The first open meeting drew nearly 60 residents, 3 times the old attendance record. They passed a resolution honoring the late Allison Blake for inspiring neighborhood fairness. I didn't speak during that vote. My throat wouldn't have let me. I just tapped the worn wrench keychain she'd left me and whispered, "We fixed it, Al." Over the next weeks, the dominoes continued to fall. The State Insurance Bureau opened a compliance inquiry into the old board's handling of funds. Gloria's attorney negotiated a consent decree, repayment of $3,200 in fines, plus administrative probation. No jail, but no future board roles either. The local paper ran a headline 2 days later. Engineer uses law to rebuild HOA from inside out. Dana from the insurer called afterward. "We've reinstated coverage under new governance," she said. "And unofficially, that presentation you gave? We're using it in training for risk prevention." I laughed. Guess the manual got updated. One evening, Marcus and Mrs. Green stopped by for coffee. The boys showed them their rebuilt treehouse. No HOA permits required anymore, just a simple neighborly nod. Marcus chuckled, wiping sawdust off his hands. "Looks solid. Maybe next you'll design something for the new community garden." I shrugged. "As long as no one finds me for the color of the mulch." Later, after they left, I sat on the porch with the file box that had started it all. I thumbed through each tab, green, red, blue, and closed it for the last time. Then I took it to the fire pit, lit a match, and watched the pages curl into ash. The truck's metal reflected the flame, and for a second, I saw Allison's reflection smiling in it. Her legacy intact, her spirit still parked right there beside me. Before turning in, I filmed one final message for HOA Society. If you believe I fought the right way and this is how it should end, say a few words in the comments for your friend. Subscribe so the next story reaches you first. And share this so others learn that fairness isn't automatic. It's built by hands that stay steady. The camera light blinked off. The neighborhood lights twinkled back on. What changed after? The Greenville Oaks HOA adopted a permanent transparency portal. Annual fees dropped by 28%. A state-level task force cited our reforms as a model for Community Accountability 2026. And on October 3rd, the new board launched the Allison Blake Scholarship for neighborhood engineering students. I walked the street the night they installed the plaque. The wind moved through the trees like someone whispering, "Enough." I smiled, locked the gate, and said quietly, "On to the next case."